Thank you for joining us today for MLA versus APA. We are your presenters. I am Holly Hubenschmidt.
And I am Carolyn Brown.
And we want to start by just acknowledging APA, MLA. What the heck is that? Those are acronyms. MLA is for the Modern Language Association, and APA is the American Psychological Association. And each of these associations has created a style guide for publishing in that field. And then the American Psychological Association, their guide has been adopted by a number of other disciplines, and the same with MLA. So these are the two most commonly used here at Webster.
So let's look at the subjects where citation style is common. In MLA, that style is used for the humanities, such as English, speech, and theater. And APA is used in the social sciences more commonly, such as psychology and sociology, education, business, and the medical sciences.
So these citation styles not only deal with the citations, but they deal with the entire formatting of your paper. And as far as spacing on papers, they're exactly the same. You double space the entire paper, including your citations. They are double spaced. The citations also use a hanging indent in both styles. That means that the first word of the citation is on the left margin. And if the citation is more than one line long, the second line, third line, any subsequent lines, those are indented.
Let's look at the resource list at the end of the paper. For MLA, it is called Works Cited, and for APA, it is called References.
And the issue of to have a title page or not to have a title page. MLA, they say do not use a title page. So if you are writing in that style, you would not put a title page on your paper. You would put title information at the top of your paper, including the name, your instructor, the program course, the date, and then you would put the title at the top of the paper centered. The other information about name and all of that is going to be in the left corner. APA does use a title page, and on that title page you include your title of your paper, your name, the school, the course number, and name, the date, and the instructor's name.
Authors' names in citations. In MLA, the author's names are listed last name, first name. So we have here in parentheses, Smith, comma, Lisa, the full name. In APA, the author's names are listed last name, first initial, Smith, comma, L, period.
I think this slide looks a little daunting, but don't let it unnerve you. Carolyn has a wonderful phrase that she says that there is no creativity in citations. MLA, APA have laid out the format, and all you do is plug into the format that they have created. And some of their the elements that they include or the way they include them might seem a little stilted, but that is how they do it. So that is how we do it in this style. So when you are dealing with a title in MLA, if it's a book, you italicize the title and you put it in title case. That means you capitalize every major word in the title. The journal title is the same way. If there's an article title from the journal, you would not italicize, but you would put quotation marks around the article and then capitalize it in that title case. APA has gone their own direction. So a book title is going to be italicized, just like MLA, but here you only capitalize the first word of the title You would capitalize only proper nouns, and if there's any punctuation like a colon, you would capitalize the first word after the punctuation. So if there are no proper nouns, first word is the only word capitalized until you get to a colon, and then the first word after the colon. Journal title is italicized, but you capitalize it just as the journal itself capitalizes itself. So if it's JAMA, Journal of the American Medical Association, and the journal would be capital J, capital A, capital M, capital A, that's how you would put it in your paper, in your citations. In APA, an article title is not italicized, no quotation marks, and you use that same funky capitalization, not title case, just the first word and the first word after punctuation, and of course, capitalize your proper nouns.
Holly, if I didn't want to own a manual of APA or MLA, where would I go to look up this information?
Ooh, good question, Carolyn. There are a number of resources that we have for you. It is best to go to the manual, but if you don't have the manual, the library has on their website a number of resources for you. The Online Writing Center from the Academic Resource Center, they have a number of information, tip sheets and things on their website that we will link you to at the end of this presentation. And of course, you have a lot of people to support you.
Absolutely. And we also have OWL at Purdue, which means that if you go online to the OWL, and that's at Purdue, you will find all of these rules listed in that section, and it will be very, very helpful for you so that you don't have to memorize these.
And I like OWL in particular at Purdue because they do have a number of sample papers so you can really see what it's supposed to look like. But feel free to call the library, to call the Writing Center with those one-off questions of, I'm just not quite sure what to do in this particular case. We're happy to help you.
Absolutely. So order of citations. In MLA, citations are listed alphabetically. And same with APA, citations are also listed alphabetically. So if you have either a works cited page or a references page, all of those citations are going to be listed alphabetically, most likely by author's last name first, and then followed by other keywords if there is no author, which we'll talk about shortly.
And when you cite, you want to cite in two places. You want to have a full citation on that reference list or the works cited page at the end of your paper so that the reader knows where completely where you got your information from. But in text, when either you quote or paraphrase someone at the end of every sentence that you paraphrased or at the end of a quote, you need to have an in-text citation so that you've acknowledged that these ideas that I just talked about, they're not mine, I got them from research. And in MLA, your in-text citation should have the author and the page number. APA wants you to put the author's last name, comma, the year, comma, and the page number.
Section headings. In MLA, we don't use headings or subheadings, but in APA, headings and subheadings are used to organize the paper. So you might find headings such as introduction, discussion, conclusion. So those would be appropriate headings to use in APA, but MLA does not call for headings or subheadings in papers.
Let's look at a few examples of some of the citation style. For a book, we've got your MLA citation and your APA citation, and a few things that jump out at you right away. The author's last name or the author's name starts with the last name, and then MLA wants the full first name. APA just wants the initial. APA puts the year immediately after the author in parentheses, whereas MLA goes right into the title of the work. Both of the titles, both of the styles put the titles in italics, but notice the capitalization. MLA is title case. Every major word is capitalized. APA has that special capitalization rule where we just capitalize the first word. And then we have the publisher, and then MLA tacks the date on at the very end.
Okay, let's look at an article from a database. In MLA, as opposed to APA, you have the author's full names, Alonso Alvaro and Julio Camargo, followed by the title of the article. And notice that it is in caps, and it also is in quote marks, unlike the APA example. Next comes the environmental toxicology, which is the name of the journal, and followed by the volume and the number, when it was written, the 3rd of February, 2006, and the page numbers. And note there that it says PP before the page numbers, and it doesn't in APA. Then you have the Wiley Online Library and the DOI, which is the Digital Object Identifier, and that number, and then when it was accessed by the person who used the information. So here it was accessed on 6th of May, 2016. And notice that APA does not have that piece of information. So now if we're looking at APA, we have the author's last names and just the first initial, always followed by the year of publication, and then the title. And you can see here that it is not in all caps, just the first word, followed by the journal, also in italics. And then here you have the volume number, which is 21 in italics, followed by the issue number 1, and that is not in italics. And that's a common mistake that people often make, is that they put the whole thing in italics or they don't put any of it in italics. But actually, the first part belongs in italics and the second part is not. Followed by the page numbers, where you will not have PP before the page numbers, you just list them. And then also the DOI here.
Carolyn, I've got one quick question for you because I think I might have found a mistake in one of our slides. Should there be an ampersand or is and used between the two authors in both citation styles?
There should be an ampersand for APA, Holly.
So it should be Alonso A and then the ampersand symbol.
Yes,
J. We'll
that is
correct
correct.
in future versions, but keep in mind, there's a lot of detail in citation. So we need to review ours, just like you need to review yours. Websites, very commonly used in research. You might find you have to cite a website, and websites are tricky because often the full information is not there. This is kind of an idealized situation where you've got author of the website and a title of the page. So in the MLA style, we've got the authors with their names spelled out, their first name spelled out, how and when to reference is the title, and then we have the date because there was a date included on the page, the website, that it was put up on the 25th of January, 2017.
But that information might not always be there, Holly. Isn't that correct?
That's the problem, is often you don't have an author or you don't have a date. So you've got to put in what you've got. And with the understanding, MLA and APA both acknowledge that some of this information may be missing, but you put in what you can. You could put in some kind of title and you could put in some kind of URL every time and the date you accessed it. Some of the other information, though, as Carolyn said, is going to be tricky to get. APA lists the authors and then they put the date. If you do not have authors, you would put your title first and then put the date right after the title. You never lead with the date. If there is no date and no author, just start with the title. And then you end with a URL, but there's no period at the end of the URL in APA.
That is correct. And you will also see the ampersand there, Holly, used correctly under APA. And
Good.
that is what the last citation should have had as well.
Okay, when Carolyn mentioned this one or included this slide, this kind of blew my mind, but YouTube or something, YouTube videos are definitely something you might want to be prepared to cite. Carolyn, do you want to explain?
Sure. So MLA, if you look at that first, you will see the title of the clip followed by YouTube in italics. When it was uploaded, the date and the URL. And notice there's no period there. APA, it's a little bit more tricky. First, they have MLA in brackets, followed by the date. Then the getting started with MLA, notice that there's no quote marks there. And then it says video file. Okay.
So
followed by
the format.
Correct. And then followed by the URL with no period. But if you look at these two, they're basically asking for very similar information. It's just in different formats. But YouTube is a very popular source for citation, and we get these questions often.
And this is a good point to mention. When you've learned about citation, you might have heard that if something is a fact, you don't need to cite it. And that is true. But there does come a point when you might say, should I cite it or should I not cite it? How well accepted is this? Would you consider this a fact? And my thought is, if you are in doubt, if you are questioning, include it. It is so much better to oversight. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you don't cite something that you used from another source, that can be problematic, and you get into issues of academic integrity and issues that really can impact your status at the university, in addition to your grade and lots of other things. So we highly recommend that you cite whenever you are in doubt.
Absolutely.
Et al. It's one of those things you don't have to say out loud a lot, but it means and others. MLA and APA both handle multiple authors a little bit differently. If you have, for your in-text citation, MLA, one author's pretty easy, last name and the page number. Two authors would be both last names and the page number. 3 to 5 authors, then you can start saying Taylor et al., the first author, and then et al., everybody else. And that continues on with 6 or more authors, because you may run into a journal article that does have 20 authors. So that's a really nice feature to be able to not have to type everyone's name out. APA, of course, does it a little bit differently. Here we do the author's last name, the date, because APA likes that, page numbers. If you have 2 authors, you put both last names with an ampersand. 3 to 5, you list them all out with the ampersand the first time you cite that source. If you cite it subsequently, additional times in your paper, then you only need to put the first author with et al. And then 6 or more authors, you can do the last name and et al. Right from the get-go.
And notice too that it seems there are a lot more commas on the APA side than on the MLA side. And that's just part of the formatting.
APA definitely likes commas.
Holly, would you like to take this one since you're talking about the library?
So This is one of the many ways you can get help. This is what the library can do for you. If you go to the library website and if you click on our research guides blue button, you will find guides related to citation. There's one for APA, there's one for MLA, but contact a librarian. We'll show you all the different ways that you can get help. You can phone us, email us. We have 24/7 chat. We'll video conference with you. We have some in-person hours even here mid-pandemic. So we are here the last week or so of every term. This is the number one thing that's happening with the research librarians is people are calling and saying, I interviewed my boss for a paper and now my professor says I need to cite that. What do? We have a citation format for a personal interview. So you just tell us what style you're working with and we can look that up and help you plug all the information into the right place.
Excellent. And I'll talk about the Online Writing Center. So in the Academic Resource Center, we have an online writing center, and we also have a new feature called Net Tutor, which I will talk about in a moment. The Online Writing Center, you can submit your papers and a coach will read and respond to your paper, looking at thesis development and structure and organization, and also looking at your citations. So if you need help and you want to make sure that you've cited properly and that your citations are in the correct format, I would highly recommend using the Online Writing Center, and you can access that by looking at the URL at the top of the screen. Net Tutor is a new feature that we have at the Academic Resource Center, and you also can have your papers read through Net Tutor, and they are a 24-hour service, so they're available to help you at any time of the day or night if you need help with your paper, and they pretty much perform the same services that the Online Writing Center does, except they have a faster turnaround and they're also available 24/7. And to reach Net Tutor, all you have to do is go to your World Classroom to any one of your classes and look on the left side of the screen and you will see Net Tutor there, and you can just click on that and send your paper through. It's very easy to do. So these are some of the resources that you have available to you at Webster.
Carolyn and I want to thank you for your time today. And as your questions come up, please do reach out to both of our teams. We are standing by to help. Good luck with your APA or MLA journey.
Thank you so much.